Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. It's a video session on daily news and editorial analysis dated 14th of December. Through this video session, I'll be discussing the important news and editorial both from the Hindu and Indian Express. The analysis and the discussion of the news will cater all the aspirants who will be appearing for the civil services examination, State Public Service Commission examination, and one-day examination conducted by various state and union agencies. So specifically, I'll be confining myself to the specific news which is important from the examination perspective. So first, I'll give you the highlights of the news, then we'll proceed in detail with each and every news one by one. So let's get started with the news highlights of the day. So the first important news, it's about the report that has been released by WHO in terms of the roads fatality which is there और इंडिया के context में कुछ specific बातें बताई गई हैं. The second important news talks about COP28, how the transition to clean energy can be an alternative has been discussed. The third important news talks about the center planning to simplify the GST rates. Some revamped version of the GST will also be launched and some slabs that is going to be changed has also been discussed in the news. The second last news talks about COP28. What was the progress that was made recently? The COP28 which was there at UAE has been concluded. So we'll see the progress made and the shortcoming to this particular event. And I'll be concluding the session with editorial that talks about the consultocracy. Basically, the government entities are taking the help from the consulting firm to ensure the policy making and implementation of the policy with the pan-India. So we'll see the detail how India and the policy makers are crippled with part of consultancy process. So these are all discussion news and article for the day. Let's get started with the detailed analysis of the news one by one. Starting the discussion with the first news, that is the Global Status Report on Road Safety 2023. This is something very important report that has come with regards to the road accident. This particular report was actually released by the World Health Organization, which has specifically provided data at the global level. Global level पे जो road accidents हैं उसके बारे में बात की गई है, and specifically for India's context, we have something to worry about, right? So we'll see the detail to this. This is something, the report which numbers of annual road traffic death that was reported globally. Now, the other details that you need to know about the report, first I'll tell you the highlights of this report. So report में कुछ specific चीजों को highlight की गई है. Specifically, if you look at the road death, the part of the death that is reported has been dropped by 5%. This is what the report has highlighted. But again, the total toll is 1.19 million. This is a tell that report till 2020. Globally अगर बात करें फोर व्हीलर्स व्हीकल्स की, दिस ऑक्यूपेंट ऑफ 30% फर्टिलिटी. अगर फोर व्हीलर की कितनी फर्टिलिटी है, दिस इज 30% of the fertility. Then we have pedestrian, which actually account for 23% of the fertility. This is for pedestrian. And the other two-wheeler and three-wheelers makes up to 21% of the fertility. This is for two-wheeler and three-wheelers, right? And cyclist की अगर बात करें, they account for 6% of the fertility. Now this number is also important because cyclists in India, globally also witness the past of facility. And 3% of the death is among the micro mobility device such as e-scooter. So if it is argued about the part of e-scooter and its safety, तो आप ये data use कर सकते हैं कि 3% death report की गई हैं by e-scooter globally. Now 2019 की जो report थी, वहाँ पे primary cause of death in the age group which was there. So this was between 5 to 29 and they ranked from 12 leading cause of death with the all age group. The risk of death is 3 times higher in the low and middle income countries, right? Low and middle income countries की बात करें तो वहाँ पे जो ज़्यादा death report की गए compared to the developed countries. So it is how much? 3 times higher than the other country, despite having less than 1% of the motor vehicle, right? जो total populations के पास जितनी vehicles हैं उसकी 1% से भी कम जो डेवलप्ड लोअर इनकम कंट्रीज उनके पास है, बट फर्टिलिटीज वाइज और वो 3 times ज़्यादा हायर है कंपेयर टू द डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज. दीज आर सम ऑफ द इम्पॉर्टेंट हाईलाइट्स दैट यू मस्ट टेक अ नोट ऑफ. अगर आपको कहीं मौका मिले मेंस के आंसर में इस तरह के पॉइंट्स इनपुट देने के, तो मेक श्योर यू आर राइटिंग इट. नाउ रोड ट्रैफिक फर्टिलिटीज स्पेसिफिकली इन इंडिया, अगर इंडिया के कंटेक्स्ट में बात करें, जो ग्लोबल स्टेटस रिपोर्ट आई है, दिस specifically highlight that the total number of death fatalities in India has went up to 1.5 lakh in 2021 from 1.34 lakh in 2010. So this is that number that is something on a higher side. Government has already taken some of the preventive measures, but अगर बात करें rate की, the rate of death that was reported is not at low. Now, almost 92 of deaths that occur in the low middle income countries, जितनी भी death हुई हैं, just to give you an add on here, 92% death जो है वो lower middle income countries से हैं. Ministry of Road and Transport ने भी अपने annual report में कहा है, this report highlights and it says that the road accident in India, the total number is 4,61,312, right? ये report की गई है for states के लिए and for union territories during the calendar year. और casualties ये हैं and the number of injuries are mentioned. So government of India also come up with a detailed report apart from the global report that is published by WHO. तो इंडिया की अपने रिपोर्ट्स में भी फर्टिलिटीज को बढ़ते क्रम में दिखाया गया एंड दिस इज समथिंग विच इज कंसर्निंग फॉर इंडिया एंड वी कैन नॉट ओनली सोली blame government for it. Definitely we as a citizen must be enlightened and make people aware that our precaution is also very important, right? People are actually not using helmets and not they're making a call while driving. So these are the things which definitely need to be abstained while you are actually making when you are actually driving or you're on a driver's seat, right? Now, if you look at the total fatalities rate in India, specifically जो death के report की अगर बात करें, these are the number which is there. This is for 2016, 17, 18, 19 and 20. Post 2021, number of fatalities कम हुए थे. COVID-19 के लॉकडाउन की वजह से the vehicles were even not allowed. But उसके बाद जो number है वो बढ़ती है, क्रम पे है, and when the trend shows that the fatality has increased over the time. Now countries that have made progress, जो ग्लोबल रिपोर्ट WHO ने रिलीज की है उसमें ये भी बताया गया that कौन कौन से कंट्रीज ने प्रोग्रेस किए हैं. सो द कंट्री दैट हैव मेड अ प्रोग्रेस इन टर्म्स ऑफ दैट और उसमें 50% तक से गिरावट देखी गई है. दिस कंट्री इंक्लूड बेलारूस, ब्रुनेई, डेनमार्क, जापान, लिथुनिया, नॉर्वे, रशिया's फेडरेशन, India, Tobago, United Arab Emirates and Venezuela. So these are the countries that have made a positive progress. They have reduced their fatalities by none less than 50%, up to 50%, right? And the countries that have made notable progress in reducing their road fatalities, that by 30 to 50%. So there's a range between 30% to 50% on a max. Now, what are the part that need to be taken care of? और ये जो WHO की रिपोर्ट रिलीज की गई उसमें सारी चीजें बताई गई है that how we can ensure the risk of that. So first, the speeding need to be controlled. जो speed है, if you are on the part of the state road, तो आपको क्या speed रखनी है, you have to accordingly maintain. If you are on a highway, then accordingly the speed should be taken care of. Then driving by drinking should be completely prohibited and there should be penalty, right? मोटरसाइकिल हेलमेट यूज इज अ मैंडेट दैट आई हैव टोल्ड यू एट द बिगिनिंग. हेलमेट यूज करना एक मैंडेटरी है जो कि एक इंडिविजुअल को उसके ब्रांड डैमेज या किसी भी तरह की अगर कोई एक्सीडेंट होती है तो उससे उसको बचाता है. Now, seat belt use, this is for 4 vehicles. If you're traveling, either you are a driver or you are a co-passenger, make sure you are making your belt intact. And child resistance system use must be used so that the part of things can actually be prevented, right? तो ये सारी precautions WHO की best practices हैं जो कि include की जानी चाहिए. And very very important, if you're writing in mains examination, you will definitely get an added advantage in the mains. Now, व्हीकल ग्रोथ के बारे में भी रिपोर्ट की है WHO ने अपने रिपोर्ट में बताया है that it has been seen that the motor vehicle growth has taken 160% and therefore the annual fatality rate is 1 lakh vehicles with 79 deaths, 47 fatalities, which is 41% of the reductions. Now moving ahead with other news, that is COP28 called for transition away from the fossil fuel. I have also made a discussion earlier as well in this regard, जहाँ पे क्लीन एनर्जी को लेकर के बातें की गई है. एंड जस्ट टू रिमाइंड यू दैट COP28 हैज स्पेसिफिकली कम अप विद दिस पार्ट जहाँ पे फॉसिल फ्यूल को कम करने की बातें कही गई है. सो एक न्यू ड्राफ्ट रिलीज की गई थी दैट एम्स टू कम फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम एक्सप्लिसिटली एक्सप्रेसिंग द पार्ट ऑफ transition away from the fossil fuel to avert the worst impact on the climate change. So if it is asked in the examination कौन सी ऐसी COP है जहाँ पे फर्स्ट टाइम फॉसिल फ्यूल को निगेट करने की बात की गई है, then it is COP28. Now, a new proposal was set. So the proposal specifically emphasized on the part of cutting the greenhouse gas emissions. जो greenhouse gas की emissions हैं उसको कम करने की बात की गई है to align with 1.5 degrees Celsius, and this was a target which was there at the Paris Climate Agreement, right? And it advocate for threefold increase in the global renewable energy capacity by 2030, right? The developed and list अगर बात करें जीरो और लो emissions टेक्नोलॉजी की वो incorporate करने की ज़रूरत है. Renewable nuclear abatement of the renewable technology such as carbon capture and utilization and storage need to be incorporated. This is what the new draft report has come up with, right? और ड्राफ्ट में ये भी बताया गया है कि जो 200 नेशंस हैं जिन्होंने पार्टिसिपेट किया था दुबई कॉन्फ्रेंस में, दे शुड टेक द डिसाइसिव एक्शंस. एवरी कंट्री, बीट एवरी कंट्री, द कंट्री स्पेसिफिक हैज टू टेक देयर ओन एक्शन. अगर इंटेंडेड नेशनल डिटरमिन्ड कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस की बात करें विच वाज अ पार्ट ऑफ पेरिस क्लाइमेट एग्रीमेंट, यहाँ पे भी हर एक कंट्रीज को अपने एक कॉग्निजेंस के साथ ये एस्टैब्लिश करना होगा कि दे आर टेकिंग द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, द ड्यू रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी टू इंश्योर द सस्टेनेबिलिटी ऑफ द एनवायरमेंट. Now, roadmap for net zero emissions. This was also categorically highlighted, specifically scientific assessment of IPCC, अगर Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change की बात करें, उन्होंने specifically कहा है that net zero emissions must be there by 2050 in best to the humanity that can be done, and maintaining the temperature at 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of this century. Right? This implies that the cutting of the emissions to 43 degrees Celsius by 2019 level and 60% by 2035. So we can gradually jump from 43% to 60% by 2035, right? And also I'll give you the part of the countries that have actually set their target to achieve it. This is a map. I mean, that will help you to understand how the roadmap of net zero is going to be achieved. These are the list of the country. The color code specifically mention about the year and target. इंडिया की अगर बात करें, इंडिया ने प्रॉमिस की है फॉर द नेट जीरो एमिशंस बाय 2070. चाइना ने 2060 की बात की है, यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स बाय 2050. सो लेट्स सी हाउ द कंट्रीज आर मेकिंग प्रोग्रेस टू अचीव दिस टारगेट. Now, center to review the part of the plan for simplicity of the GST rate. Recent government ने कहा है that there will be a rationalization effort for the reconstitutions of the ministerial group to the GST Council. For GST Council, there is a ministerial group that is formed, and the decision are taken unanimously by the members, right? So the group of the task will be the formations of the council will be actually looking into the simplifications of the tax structure, revisiting the multiple rates. अगर GST की बात करें, GST में अलग अलग स्लैब्स होते हैं और उस स्लैब्स में चेंजेस लाई जाएंगे. So there will be the group of ministers. As of today, this group of ministers are actually they're working for the part of GST, right? So the revenue officers indicated that by the end of 2023, GST rates will be simplified. This is a long demand from the industries also, क्योंकि कई ऐसी चीजें हैं जहाँ पे GST के rate is on a higher side. So we need to reduce it. We need to rationalize. The better word will be to rationalize it, right? And even the Karnataka revenue minister has been included from the reconstitution committee. अगर बात करें जो पहले की कमेटी थी, वहाँ पे कर्नाटका के जो चीफ मिनिस्टर्स थे, he was there, the members, right? The part who was actually heading. बट अभी गवर्नमेंट नहीं है वहाँ पे बीजेपी की, उस वजह से जो उत्तर प्रदेश के मिनिस्टर हैं, he has been taken into consideration to lead the part of 7-member group, right? So he will be acting as a convener group. Now GST के slabs की बात करें, the 4 main GST slabs are 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%. So there are certain categories, there are 4 categories depending upon which the rate has been there. First for 5%, first is for 5%, then we have 12% rate, then we have 18%, followed by 28% of the rates, right? So it will attract कौन से categories में कहाँ revision करने की ज़रूरत है. It further compile that some hold the part of the tax which is there for packaging and other specified products would need to be taken into consideration, चाहे वो केस हो फुटवेयर की, होटल रूम्स की, क्या किस चीज़ को लग्जरीज आइटम्स में कंसिडर करनी है, इन सारी चीज़ों में एक बार से गवर्नमेंट रिविजन करेगी. Now, long pending demand was there from the tax expert and from the industry to restart the stalled process which was there with the GST revenue. अगर बात करें total GST revenue की जो health है वो actual में सही हुई है. This is for 1.6 lakh crore rupees, and government has also understand the need to simplify the tax structure. Now, this can be a reason because of the elections as well, but we are not considering that point. We are taking this as a policy measures of the government. So the GOM, that is the group of ministers, will be coming up with the terms of reference, जिसे TOR भी कहते हैं. So the TORs will be remain when the recommendations will come with the GST compensation cells as well. And moving ahead with other news, that is COP28, most important decision and shortcoming. We have seen that the COP28, again a very important and significant event which took place at UAE, और इसकी कंक्लूजन हुई है. उसके बाद इसकी प्रोग्रेस रिपोर्ट क्या इंपॉर्टेंट डिसीजंस थे, क्या शॉर्टकमिंग है, उसको देखेंगे और समझेंगे. दिस कैन बी अगेन वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट for both prelims and mains examination. Make sure you are aware of each and every fact that I'm discussing in detail. So COP28 की बात करें, कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ें, कुछ ऐसी चीज़ें जो इसके स्पेसिफिक हाईलाइट्स है. फर्स्ट इज दैट फर्स्ट टाइम एक्नॉलेजमेंट हुई है टू मूव अवे फ्रॉम द फॉसिल फ्यूल. This is what I've discussed at the first news. Now the first promise to reduce the methane emission. This was again there at COP28. Optionalizations of the capital and loss and damage fund. अगर L&D की बात करें, L&D was actually conceptualized in the part of COP27 में इसे फाइनेंस की बात की और बहुत पहले ही COP में लॉस एंड डैमेज फंड की बात हुई. Agreement on the framework for the global goal on adaptation. So these were some of the important outcomes. Now, I'll give you the specific highlights of the initiatives and the part that has been actually concluded during the COP28. So we have fossil fuel phase out. इसके बारे में discussions हुई हैं and the much deliberations are there towards the transition away from the fossil fuel by 2050. Every country need to ensure that they are making a progress. Now, tripling of the renewable energy is something that has been targeted. COP28 ने ये भी कहा है that we need to contribute to tripling the global installed capacity in terms of renewable energy and even doubling the annual improvement in energy efficiency. Now, the other important progress was cut down in the methane emissions. See, I mean, if you look at the methane part, ये काफ़ी ज़्यादा problem है अभी environment में. Reducing the nor carbon dioxide emissions is something that should be also taken into consideration. And methane is the widely spread greenhouse gas. Methane की contribution greenhouse gases में काफ़ी अधिक है, which CO2 account for nearly 25% of the emissions, right? Now, loss and damage fund, this is on the part of the finance which is there. अगर financial part में बात करें तो ये एक important चीज़ है. Loss and damage fund were last taken into शर्म एल शेख. दिस इज अबाउट द COP27, राइट, जो कि इजिप्ट में हुई थी. यहाँ पे भी इसके लिए प्रॉमिस की गई थी और काफ़ी ज़्यादा प्रोग्रेस हुई है. जो फर्स्ट डे थी इस बार की COP28 में, वहाँ पे एक्चुअली बात किया गया कि लॉस एंड डैमेज फंड को अप्रूव करना है. 800 million हैज़ बीन मेड द प्रोग्रेस and money is meant to provide the financial help to the countries who are actually recovering from the climate induced disasters. Now, phase down of the coal, इसमें इंडिया ने एक्चुअली इस चीज़ को अभी प्रॉमिस नहीं किया बिकॉज वी हैव लॉट ऑफ ऑब्लिगेशंस विथ रिगार्ड्स टू कोल, राइट. सो द एग्रीमेंट वाज एक्चुअली आउटलाइंड इन 2021 ग्लासगो कॉन्फ्रेंस and I've told you some countries which include India, China, South Africa has actually not signed this agreement and they have resisted from this, right. Now, global goal on adaptations. Adaptation is something which is again important and a specific exclusive part of COP28, right. हिस्टोरिकली अगर एडाप्टेशंस की बात करें, इट हैजंट बीन रिसीव्ड इनफ अटेंशन. तो इस बार की COP28 में एडाप्टेशंस पे भी खासा जोर रहा है. इट विल ऑल्सो बेनिफिट मोस्टली लोकल्स एंड इवन द पार्ट द एडाप्टेशंस टेक्नोलॉजी, द इंडिजिनस टेक्नोलॉजी दैट कैन बी यूज्ड टू इंश्योर द सस्टेनेबिलिटी ऑफ द एनवायरनमेंट. Now, moving ahead with the editorial for the day that talks about the consentocracy. This is something which government is actually invoking at this point of time. Government की consultation process काफ़ी ज़्यादा important firms से रही हैं, whether it is KPMG, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and lot other companies, I mean firms that are actually working with assistance with the government of India. So we'll see किस तरह से consultancy firms के जो growth है वो काफ़ी ज़्यादा government में बढ़े हैं. So first we'll see the background to this, then we'll have a proliferations of the consulting, engagement of consultant, and the conclusion part. Now, सेंटर और स्टेट की अगर बात करें, दोनों, I mean there is not one, the center as well as for the state government, both are hiring the part of consultancy. Consultancy दोनों जगह पे में include हुई है and most government are using the part where this is considered as a bedrock कहाँ पे बहुत ऐसे इंपॉर्टेंट स्कीम्स हैं जहाँ पे गवर्नमेंट ने यूज़ किए हैं, लाइक रिवर गंगा प्रोजेक्ट, स्वच्छ भारत, जल जीवन मिशन, ऑर्डिनेंस फैक्ट्री बोर्ड जो कि उत्तर प्रदेश में भी स्टैब्लिश हो रही है, 1 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी बनाने की बात की गई है उत्तर प्रदेश को। इन सारे चीज़ों के लिए जो एक्चुअली पॉलिसी मेकर्स हैं, जो फर्म्स काम कर रहे हैं, एंड इवन फॉर द पार्ट ऑफ प्रोजेक्ट दैट इज देयर दैट विल बी एग्जीक्यूटेड बाय these policy suggester or advisor are into actions. Now, officials tend to get comfortable and over dependent on this consulting team, leading to the mission creep or repeated redeployment of the individuals, right? So why? Because the officers which are there at present lack expertise, उनके पास expertise नहीं है, जिस वजह से जो कंसल्टेंटिंग फर्म है उनको दोबारा से रिकॉन्स्टिट्यूट किया गया है, रीडिप्लॉयमेंट किया गया है। Now, proliferations of consultation, if you look at India's vision for 2047, there are a lot of other things need to be done. Government ने strategic priorities रखी हैं और उनको इस प्रायोरिटी को अचीव करने के लिए कई ऐसे आउटसोर्स्ड फर्म्स हैं जो काम कर रहे हैं गवर्नमेंट के पॉलिसीज में। दिस इंक्लूड प्राइस वाटर कूपर, डेलोइट, E&Y, दैट इज अर्नेस्ट एंड यंग, KPMG और मैकेंस्की, ये ऐसे कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट फर्म्स हैं जो कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को पॉलिसी मेकिंग में असिस्ट करते हैं। इसमें असिस्ट करते हैं इन द पॉलिसी मेकिंग एंड इम्प्लीमेंटेशन। ग्लोबली दे आर साउंडेड विद द proliferation ऑफ कंसल्टिंग फर्म अक्रॉस द गवर्नमेंट। और अगर कंसल्टेंसी की बात करें, इट मीन्स दैट गवर्नमेंट ने अभी अपने पूरे पॉलिसी मेकिंग में हार्ट ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट they are actually making their role, diminishing the role of functions of capabilities of the public servant. So this should not also take the higher toll. अगर ऐसा होगा तो जो लोग पॉलिसी मेकर्स में हैं which have actually come up with a bottom up approach, their experience will not be taken into consideration. So this can be a downside to it. Now, engagement of consultancy से अगर बात करें, the engagement of this consultant has been justified for several years. क्यों? Because the current issues or something like that need expertise is actually not there with the government servant. कुछ ऐसे specific area हैं like agriculture, transport, energy, financial services where we need a specific skilled individual, right? और अगर बात करें आज के public service system में या public delivery system में, this is has to be amplified where digital अगर खास करके बात करें direct benefit transfer की यहाँ पे initiatives हैं, और ऐसे और कुछ specialized technical initiatives हैं जहाँ पे हमें actual assistance लेनी पड़ रही है। Now, deploying of the consultant can take the optimal because of their temporary engagement and avoidance adding the permanent institutional load. कहीं ना कहीं अगर हमने ज़्यादा इस चीज़ पे डिपेंडेंसी दिखाई तो हमारी एक परमानेंट इंस्टीट्यूशनल लोड भी पड़ सकती है इन कंसल्टिंग फर्म्स के ऊपर। Now, to conclude the fact, conclusion is that, the firms which are actually making their role in public policy and implementation can be a lasting trend, right? Are the lasting trend, and they are making a substantial progress. Reconstitutions भी हुई है और re-inductions भी हुई है कई ऐसे firms की. It is unrealistic to expect that government officials do not constantly upgrade their skill. Modern governance में ये ज़रूरी है कि government actually training दे. Training से बहुत सारी ऐसी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ें हैं जो हो सकती है, and government officers are capable. The elite officers who are inducted by the UPSC as an IAS and IPS officer and beat any other group A services, they are definitely capable, provided that they are provided with the training, right? Then thoughtful cooperations of the private sector expertise with a clear regulatory framework can enhance the quality effectiveness of the public service delivery system. Definitely we can take assistance from this firm, but need to be ensured कि जो सिविल सर्वेंट हैं उनको भी पार्टिसिपेटरी होने का मौका देना चाहिए. गवर्नमेंट कैन इंक्रीज देयर पार्ट ऑफ लेवल प्लेइंग फील्ड बाय प्रोवाइडिंग एडिक्वेट ट्रेनिंग टू देम. अब मूविंग अहेड विद द आंसर्स डिस्कशंस. जो कल के सवाल हैं, पहला ऑप्शन उसके करेक्ट ऑप्शन है ए. सो चेक आउट व्हाट यू हैव मार्क्ड. इसमें ऑप्शंस ए जो है वो ऑप्शन 1 करेक्ट है, ऑप्शन 2 इनकरेक्ट एंड ऑप्शन 3 इज ऑल्सो इनकरेक्ट. The second question of the day, यहाँ पे options B correct है, जो सिर्फ second option है वो correct है. This was about NMDC. Now today's MCQ for practice, जो पहला सवाल है, that is about the election trust scheme. The election trust scheme is established by business with the sole purpose of distributing and collecting the business individual to the political parties. Election Commission of India, that is ECI, approved this scheme, and the firm registered under Section 25 of the Firm Act of 1956 may apply for the electoral trust. So check out which among the following is the correct option. To participate in this, you have to simply write question number 1 और अपने जो correct options हैं वो आप comment section में लिख करके हमें ज़रूर बताएं. Your participation is very important. Now, the second question is about the cross-border adjustment. This is a component of European Union Fit to 55 by 30 initiatives that's aimed to reduce the carbon emissions by requiring imported commodities and carbon cost at manufacturing by the manufactured in the EU. सेम प्रोसेस है पार्टिसिपेट करने के लिए क्वेश्चन नंबर 2 लिख करके जो भी आपको करेक्ट ऑप्शंस लगते हैं वो आप हमें कमेंट सेक्शन में लिख करके बता सकते हैं. So do participate, write your answer in the comment section down below. Your participation is something which will help you as well, and we give us motivations to come up with more good quality questions. So this was all about for the daily news and editorial analysis followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, you can reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for staying connected.